Hi, I'm Captain Chris and welcome to this segment on diesel fuel filters. The fuel filters we'll be talking about now are the RACOR brand, which is the most common brand of pre-engine fuel filters. We call it the bulkhead filter because it's bolted onto the bulkhead. This filter that I'm looking at is one of the larger models that they offer, which is the model 1000. But looking back to my left, a smaller model 900, smaller model 500, much smaller and now out of production model 2000. So all four of these are RACOR brand diesel fuel filters. We call it a bulkhead mount because you can see how it's screwed onto the bulkhead, and you would want to think of this as a pre-fuel filter, meaning the fuel is filtered before it arrives at the diesel engine. The diesel engine itself has got its own proprietary fuel filter from the Caterpillar, the John Deere, the Volvo, the Perkins, the Ford, the Detroit Diesel, but this is to capture as much water, debris, segment, and dirty fuel before it gets to the engine. Let me show you how it works. We've got the clear bowl at the bottom. This has got what we call the salad bowl, or the aluminum stainless steel bowl at the bottom. This is a flash suppressor for flash fire. This is clear so you can actually see if there's debris inside of the fuel filter bowl. And then this top portion that's solid aluminum, in this case painted white, will have a fuel filter element on the inside. In fact, this is a fuel filter element here, which is dirty. I'll show you how dirty it is because you can see all of the dirt inside of the pleats. And this is dry, meaning the diesel fuel has evaporated for a couple of years, so it's not that stinky, but you can see all of the dirt inside of this pleated filter. Another thing to keep in mind, this has got brown ink on the top of it, and the brown ink will also say 2 microns. So the holes, or the size of particulate matter that's allowed to penetrate through here, is no less than 2 microns. We also have the blue version that's 10 microns, and then the orange version that's 30 microns. Let me pull the filter element out of the top of this. On board your boat, I want to warn you, before you open up the filter, you want to turn off the fuel line. You don't want the diesel fuel to drain out of the tank through the open lid on the filter. In this case, the filter valve is right there, so I've turned off the fuel supply from the fuel tank into the filter, and now I can unscrew the top. It's a simple T-handle. Pull the T-handle out, and you might notice that there's a little red rubber O-ring at the top. About the same size rubber O-ring that you would have on a scuba tank. If you're a scuba diver, you would recognize that. Then you pull the lid off. As you pull the lid off, you'll notice there's no gasket. The gasket is stuck up here on the top. So we'll pull the gasket off, and you'll notice that it's got 4 flat sides, and it goes inside the lid right here. So don't worry about this gasket or the red rubber O-ring gasket, because when you buy a new fuel filter, it comes with a new gasket that you'll put into the lid, or also the red gasket onto the T-handle. So that comes included with the replacement filter. Let me pull this out. Now this is dry, and you can see I've pulled it out, and you can see how clean it is. And you'll also notice that it's an orange, which represents 30 microns particulate filtering size right here. So look at these two, you'll see which one's clean and which one's dirty. I want to mention that this one is brand new. That means it's white. If it were used inside of American off-road marine diesel fuel, it would actually be red. Red diesel fuel in the United States means no highway tax has been paid. So if this is brand new, it's white. If it's a clean filter, when you pull it out, it will be red, showing you that it's the color of the red dyed marine diesel fuel, but it is clean red, not dirty black like this. Another point that I'd like to say is this stinks. Something we need to talk about. It stinks like a locker room. It stinks like an old wet towel that's been in the trunk of your car for a couple of days. That's because this is a paper filter and it's coated with a chemical to be a water repellent. So if water goes in here, it will not dissolve the paper element, but it will continue filtering and it will capture the debris in the bottom of the filter element here. So let's go ahead and put this back in. Let's imagine that we pulled the bad one out. We're going to put the good one in it. So I'll put that in the top, let it drop down, and then I'll wiggle it in place. You may not have to remove all of this diesel fuel if the filter is okay and there's no debris down here in the bottom. If there is debris down here in the bottom, you can actually get an accessory like this petcock and put a hose on it, and then you can collect the trash in this little bottle like a water bottle, open that valve and collect the debris coming out the bottom of that, close it, and then take this and dispose of it where you dispose of your used diesel fuel filters. So we've put the new filter in. We've got to push it down against the spring. You can hear the spring. Before we close this, we need to prime this back up. So we'll need to have a jug or a bucket of diesel fuel to prime this back up. So we'll prime it all the way up to the very top, and then we can close it and open this valve and start the diesel engine. Later on in this presentation, we'll show you a real-life customer priming their fuel filter, so you'll see how it's done in real life instead of here in our garage workshop. Let me go ahead and button this up. I'm going to take the lid and the T-handle. So I got to push that down, put the T-handle in it, before you ask how tight it should be, understand there's a rubber O-ring gasket here and another rubber O-ring gasket there, and the answer is 1 oomph. That's all you need to do. Not super tight. You don't need a torque wrench. Watch. That's it. That's as tight as you need to make it. We're still not ready to start the engine. Open the fuel valve from the fuel tank so you've got free-flowing fuel to the RACOR fuel filter, out the RACOR fuel filter, and to the engine. Then you can start the engine. Let me step back a little bit, and I'll show you an older model RACOR here. Notice the difference in sizes. This is a very large horsepower RACOR fuel filter that will do 180 gallons per hour. This can handle 180 gallons of diesel fuel per hour passing through here. Don't let that frighten you. The diesel may not consume 180 gallons of diesel per hour, but it will move that much diesel fuel, and the diesel fuel the engine does not use will be returned back to the fuel tank. But bigger horsepower, medium horsepower, this is a model 500, smaller horsepower, you can tell by looking at the sizes of these filter bodies, and this is an older out of production model called the model 2000, so this is smaller than that, and that. So this is the largest of the four that we've got to show you. So we've got all of these RACOR fuel filters, and they're all basically the same thing. Some of the things I do want to point out, on this you can see we've got the black drain. So the way that you would actually handle this if you wanted to drain this out is you needed to put one pair of pliers here on the top, a different pair of pliers there, and unscrew that to let the fuel or the sludge out, and then you'd have to tighten it back up again. And that's plastic. Or if you want to go deluxe, you can get something with the bronze type of petcock here to open and let the debris out. Close it. Same thing we have over here, except we've actually put a hose on it to make it more convenient, so you can drain it down into a little water bottle or something. So that's one accessory that we urge you to consider. Another accessory, and the question is, I can see if there's debris or water in here, but I can't see how dirty my filter is. I cannot see how dirty that is. So the question is, how do I know when to replace a fuel filter? There's a lot of different answers. One answer is the engine will struggle. It cannot get enough fuel to run at the required RPMs that your throttle lever has set the engine at. So that means either there's an engine problem or a fuel delivery problem, and this might be the fuel delivery problem. Another solution would be this. Don't think of this as a pressure gauge, it's actually a vacuum gauge. So if you think of drinking a Dr. Pepper through a straw, you'll know how easy that is for the Dr. Pepper liquid to flow up through the straw. If you take that same straw and you put it into a milkshake, you can imagine how difficult it is to suck that milkshake up through the very narrow straw. So that's called suction effort or vacuum. So this is a vacuum gauge, and let me point out, got away from me, this is also a vacuum gauge. But the difference in these two vacuum gauges is this is a dynamic vacuum gauge that will only show the vacuum while the engine is running. And then of course the faster the engine is running, or the dirtier the fuel filter is, the more vacuum this gauge will show. That will only benefit you if you put on your earmuffs and go down into the engine room with the engine screaming, running as fast as it can, and maybe your wife or your buddy driving the boat. So the next gauge better than this, in my opinion, is this gauge that has the multiple needles. So here you can see at the bottom at 0 is the dynamic needle that is at 0. There's no vacuum on this gauge right now. But if I were to have this installed on top of the fuel filter, I'll show that in a moment, I would take this knob in the middle of the screen and I would put that needle down to sit on top of the first needle. So this is called a follower needle. So with a follower needle, as the dynamic needle comes up, the other needle will follow it. So you'll see it rise up right there. And when you get back to your favorite anchorage or you go into your marina for the evening, shut down the engine, turn on the air conditioner, and go down and look at your filter and say, wow, that's in the red. You don't need to read that it's between 10 and 15. Red is good enough for me. Red is danger. Red is time to change the filter. On the other hand, if it's in the yellow, yellow means caution. And in this case, yellow is between 5 and 10. So caution means you need to change the filter soon. So now you've got to make a decision. Am I going out in the ocean tomorrow? If the answer is yes, change the filter. If I'm just going to putt-putt up the intercoastal for another 20 miles, maybe I won't want to do it until I get back home 20 miles tomorrow, and then I'll change it then. So these vacuum gauges are lifesavers. They're terrific. I don't know the retail price, but I'm guessing about $150. And I would put one of these on each of your propulsion engine fuel filters. No need to put it on the generator fuel filter, but the propulsion engines, because they use a whole lot more volume diesel fuel. Where does this go? Take that T-handle out, put that in its place. So anytime you go down into your engine room to check the oil, to check the antifreeze, to check the transmission fluid, you can also eyeball this, and you may not see it from the camera, but that's in the yellow zone. So you're checking the oil and you think, well, I'm just going 20 miles up the intercoastal, I'll take care of it later. Or you'll think I'm going out in the ocean and it's 3 to 4 foot seas, might stir up some debris inside my fuel tank. I'll change it right now. So the vacuum gauge with the follower needle, I believe, is a very important piece of equipment on your boat, especially in the fuel filtering system. I keep talking about dirty fuel. I just happen to have some. What do you guys think about that? Can you see the red diesel fuel at the top, the crud in the middle, the water at the bottom, and more crud on the bottom of that? So I'll take this and I'll move it back and forth. In fact, let me take my flashlight. I don't know if that helps you on the camera any, but can you see the crud in here? So I actually have real video footage of different clients that we've worked with on their boats that have got such dirty, dirty fuel. We videoed that and we'll make that available to you, but that is also where this diesel fuel came from. This is dirty diesel fuel. So think about your diesel fuel filters, think about your engines, think about putting a vacuum gauge with the follower needle on your fuel filter, and I think you'll be miles ahead and making sure that your vacation or your weekend on the boat is a lot more happy. Now, we've talked a little bit about fuel filters in our garage workshop. Let's take a look at the real world. This first segment that we're talking about is a couple that bought a 48-foot boat with twin Volvo diesels, generator, and 2 fuel tanks in the stern of the boat. So before we start to take apart the RACOR fuel filter, we need to figure out where we can get some replacement fuel to prime the fuel filter after we drain it. So I've got 2 fuel tanks, port and starboard, and there's a connecting hose, or what we call a balance line, to balance the fuel in this tank with the fuel in that tank. So we take the balance line off, drain it into a plastic jug, put the balance line back on, and then that is our fuel that we'll use to prime the fuel filter. So then we'll take the fuel filter out, change it, clean it, reprime it, put it back together, and we're good to go. So hang on and watch this. You'll learn a lot. Okay, so that screw's loose. You're going to wiggle the hose off of the hose barb, and you'll have some diesel drippage.
You want to put this down in the bilge?
Well,
I don't know. I'm just asking that. It's just a question mark.
True, but he's got to wiggle it off, and then when it comes off, turn it up so none of the water or none of the fuel drains out of it. Is it twisting and turning, or you need pliers?
Pliers.
Plain ordinary pliers are best. There you go. Open them to the bigger jaw. There you go. You broke it loose. Okay. Now, as soon as it pops off, flip it up. It's probably been on there since.
It's coming.
Okay. Of course, you can put your thumb over it too. Okay, now grab the gallon jug. Put the gallon jug down in the bilge as low as possible. Okay, so you just drained the hose. Now reach behind you, or Sue, reach behind him and turn on the valve.
You just like open it.
Open it about halfway. Open it all the way. It's going to come out quick. What do you see?
He will come out.
Okay, close it. Okay, pick the rubber hose up and pick the jug up and see if there's any water in the bottom. I don't see any water in here, but we had water in the RACOR filter. Okay, drain some more in there. Remember when we were running fast, the bow of the boat was up, the stern of the fuel tanks were down, so the water ran downhill or back to the stern of the fuel tanks. Okay, control him so it doesn't overfill the jug.
Nope.
I'm watching.
It's 3/4 way. Yeah, stop.
Okay, do you have the lid for the jug? Put it on the jug before you pass it up. They always have a way of tipping over. Okay, again, I do not see any water in this jug, so I don't know how the water got into your RACOR, but it'll be something worth watching. Go ahead and put the hose back on that hose barb. Clamp her back down, and then we'll be good with that. So let's use this good fuel, because we do not see any water in it. We'll use this good fuel to change the RACOR that's got water in the bottom of it.
Okay, Roger.
So we'll do that in 2 or 3 more minutes.
Even though that it had
Iced tea?
iced tea in it.
It's 1 drop.
Okay.
It was clean. It should be okay. I don't see any problem with that. So we've already closed the isolation valve on the top left rear of the fuel tank. Yep, that's it. That's already closed. Unscrew the T-handle. Now wiggle that big aluminum lid off. Watch for the O-ring. Is the O-ring inside the lid?
Yep.
Okay, set that down onto our little workstation right there with that absorbent pad. Grab the filter, twist it, spin it back and forth and wiggle it out. Okay, that's a little bit dirty. Not terrible, but a little bit dirty. Look at the top and see what micron size that is.
That's a
30.
That's a 30.
So it's an orange colored print, and that's a 30 micron filter, okay? All right, so we can just set it back down inside there. Go ahead and set it back down. Don't smash it, just wiggle it back in. See how the fuel came up?
Fuel almost
Okay, just let it sit there. Now get your 2 pair of pliers. Hold the upper nut still and
I
the
get this
lower
one
nut unscrew, and you'll drain the debris out the bottom. Okay, see if you can grab the lower nut by hand. Sometimes they're too stiff and your hand's got fuel on it, it's too slippery. Okay.
Can we get a better pair of those guys?
Now it's a good pair. Just see if you can put it straight on there. Okay. Now see if you can unscrew the other one
Yep,
by hand.
it's gonna go.
It's going to go by hand? Okay, what color's coming out?
Kind of
Kind
clear.
of pea yellow.
Kind of yellowy, and then see it's kind of gooky. Open it up all the way. Now you see all that black stuff? That was sludge. Now what color's coming out?
Red.
Clear red.
Okay, you can close it. Okay, let's see what's in the bottom of your pan. So you
They
can
shouldn't
see,
be.
except for the paper towel, you can see all of the chunky dirt and the debris. And then we'll put it over here to the side. Let's see, there's the water. See the clearish water there on the side? That's water that came out of the fuel tank that the RACOR fuel water separator captured. So we're doing regular maintenance right here. So now we need to prime your filter. So we've got this jug of fuel right here. So you can prime it back up to the top. Leave the element in there because it's already supersaturated with water.
Fuel, right? Not water.
Good catch. Yes, supersaturated with fuel.
How high do you want to fill it up?
As close to the top as possible. Okay, is it staying or is it shrinking?
It's It's like it's staying.
Okay, let's go ahead and put the big lid on, and then the T-handle back on.
Not quite level. It's full over here, but
Well, the reason it's not level is because the boat's not
tipped.
level. Okay, so go ahead and put the lid back on it, and then the T-handle. If you're changing the filter, I would recommend you put a new gasket in that comes with the new filter. Here's the new filter right here, and there's the new gasket that comes with it. That's okay, that's why we've got that little catch basin at the bottom to catch any overflow. You're going to have a little bit more squeeze out when you put the T-handle on it. Squeeze it with 1 umph. That's it. No wrench required. Clean it off. Maybe if you want to put a little 409 or Windex or something, get some of that diesel smell off of it. And we're not finished. What's the most important last step?
Open up the fuel valve.
Open the fuel valve. Go ahead and do that, Sue. So now the boat's ready to go. Now the reason I did not want to change that filter that's partially dirty, you indicated that you were considering buying vacuum gauges. So I'd like you to put a vacuum gauge up there where that T-handle is, so you can see what a dirty filter reads on the vacuum gauge. And when you get to a point that you're not comfortable with it, you already have 1 spare replacement element, and I would consider another or 2 extra spares on your boat when you're cruising.
no, I mean, if one of the gauges gets to the point where you want to put on a new filter, you might as well just do them both. Or are you saying you could just watch the vacuum gauges and run?
Well, you're trying to rationalize only buying 1 vacuum gauge instead of 2, but we've proved.
No, I'm talking 2 vacuum gauges, but one shows it needs to be changed, and this one's still showing that you're good.
Yeah, and then if you're good, you're good. But in our case, we found water in this port tank, and we did not find water in the starboard tank. So that's the reason that you want to have vacuum gauges on each tank,
Right, yep.
or the larger fuel filter supplying the larger engine instead of the smaller fuel filter going to the generator.
You just dipped it in there.
So what you just did is real easy. If you had to hire a mechanic to come out here, he's got 2 or 3 hours labor driving here, doing it, and driving back home. So you save yourself about $300.
And so for the reason that we suspect water in the port side tank, you're not going to open the equalizer until we determine what exactly is going on in here. Or
That's correct.
we haven't actually determined because we didn't get any water come out when we, okay.
So
Correct.
we don't know if we need to hire a fuel polishing guy to come out here. So new to the boat, if you go run around and bounce around, the key is to agitate a partially full tank and then watch that and see if you have any more water show up in the bottom. It's possible you can work it out yourself without having to hire a professional, because the fuel filter water separator is doing its job. So changing a fuel filter is no big deal after you've done it once.
I could do it.
Sure, it's easy. This next segment, I'm joining a couple that bought a 38-foot boat in the Chesapeake Bay, and they asked me to help them learn the boat and bring it back to Florida. So as we get aboard the boat, it's a single engine Cummins diesel, and we bring the boat south. They had a lot of work done to the boat, including having the fuel tanks polished, where they brought in a professional fuel cleaning company that cleaned all of the fuel in the tanks and put it back clean. The problem is they didn't do a very good job. So when you watch this film, you'll notice that they've got a dual RACOR filter, RACOR side by side, with a yellow handle in the middle to select that RACOR or that RACOR. And every day we had to drain the dirty fuel out of the fuel filter. In our opening segment, you may have seen this ugly, nasty fuel sample. This is something that we took out of that boat, and we were taking this out of the RACOR fuel filter every night. So the RACOR fuel filters do a very good job. You just need to stay ahead of it and you need to learn how to clean them yourself. So watch this as Harold and I tackle the problem every evening, and hopefully you'll pick up a few tips how to clean the RACOR yourself aboard your own boat. Welcome below decks on this cruising boat where we've got dirty fuel tanks, and we've drained the fuel out of this right-hand filter, and look at all of that crud.
On a tank that was supposedly just cleaned.
On a tank that we paid a lot of money to have a professional come and clean. Look at all that crud. We've drained it out through the petcock into that little bowl, into this bigger dish pan, and into this jug right here. And let me see if I can lift it up without spilling anything. You can see all the crud that's in the bottom of that. Look at that crud over there in that low point. So learn how to change your fuel filters. And this is a strange phenomena. We're collecting crud. The actual filter element itself is clean. That's a clean element. We're just capturing debris down here in the bottom. So what we're going to do now is take some more diesel fuel, remove the element out of the top, and then run the diesel fuel through there and irrigate this crud. Well, you know what it looks like. We're going to irrigate this crud out through the bottom petcock hole into that catch pan. So stick around, wish us luck, and hope that we do well. In the meantime, ask Captain Chris or Captain Harold. Wish us luck. Here we are working on a RACOR model 500. Going to turn off the fuel fill hose. Unscrew this at the top. If you have too much trouble, put a box wrench on there. Give you a little bit more leverage. There you go. Unscrew it. Pardon me, I'm taking the pictures and doing the work all at the same time. Okay, so that came off faster than I expected. Now I'll pull this filter up, and you can see that the filter is clean. It's not black, it's not filthy, it's not dirty, but down in the bottom, you can see all the crud that we have down here in the bottom. Can you see that? Let me move this camera around a little bit. Look at all that crud. So I'm going to drain that crud out the bottom and catch it in those different drip pans right there, and then put it in that jug. So let me get started with this and see how it goes. I'm going to open up the petcock at the bottom, and let me move my hands around. See the crap coming out? Right word, not politically correct. And I'm draining that out, and then I'm going to stop. I'm going to put that in this jug to my left, over here. So let me pick this up. You can already see some of the stuff here in the bottom. I don't know if you can see that. See all that crap down there in the bottom? Okay. Let me set the camera down for a minute. I'll pour it in. Oh goodness. Kind of sound like a chef cooking, but this is not good stuff. Okay. Put it back in place. Let some more come out. See it draining? Actually draining kind of clear right now, because a lot of the heavy sediment is stuck inside the bowl. And with my trusty little Craftsman flashlight, look at all that crud. So we'll have to use new fuel to irrigate that crud out. All that crud was caught in that Venturi device right there. It's called heavies. It settled out into the bottom, and the actual paper filter element itself. And this one is a 10 micron. The blue ink means 10 micron particulate size. None of the heavies got up there, because the heavies all went down here through the centrifuge and collected in the bottom of the bowl. So the filter water separator did its job. Our job is to get the crud out, reprime this, and get things back on the show. Get things moving on down the Intercoastal Waterway. Okay, boys and girls, this is diesel fuel
From a freshly cleaned fuel tank
from a freshly cleaned fuel tank by a professional.
for $1,800.
Yep, and we're not going to say the guy's name, but here are two RACOR 900s. We're having to clean the one on the right because all of this debris is being captured in the centrifugal separator. So we've got water and debris, chunky debris. So we're draining it out of the bottom through the petcock. You can see that silver salad bowl. We're draining it out of the bottom of that. So we'll get this cleaned up, and we'll run again tomorrow, and we'll check it again tomorrow, see what kind of trash we've got. If you want to learn how to clean your fuel filter, all you've got to do is ask Captain Chris. Captain. Say your name, go ahead.
It's Harold. Ask Captain Chris.
You're the one that's sweating, not me. I'm the one with the camera. Okay. This is Captain Chris reporting live from Southport, North Carolina, Bald Head Island, on the Intercoastal Waterway. What I would like to show you is what we've been doing for the last few hours, and that's getting all of this funk out of our diesel fuel filters. See, that stuff looks like sand. We stir it up a little bit and see how fast it settles back down. This stuff is being captured in the centrifugal separator in the bottom of the RACOR fuel filter, and the actual filters themselves are not being dirtied at all. In fact, we're putting the filters back in because they are okay. But look at all this sand. I call it sand. I don't know what else to call it, but it's real heavy stuff. See, I shook it up, and watch how fast it settles down. So this is some really nasty stuff, and thank goodness we've got a RACOR fuel filter. We're capturing it inside the RACOR fuel filter before it ever gets to the engine fuel filter. So if you want to know more about changing fuel filters either on your engine or on your RACOR or any other brand of diesel fuel filter, just remember, ask Captain Chris. Now, another real-world adventure. This is also in the Chesapeake Bay, and it's aboard a main ship 39 with a single-engine Caterpillar diesel. We noticed during our training segments when we were going out into the bay, doing run-ups, doing fast maneuvering, slow maneuvering, docking, and anchoring, the engine was not performing as we expected it to. So as we got back to the marina, we noticed that the RACOR fuel filter vacuum gauge, the vacuum gauge like this, was up in the yellow mark. So I'll turn this needle and you can see it's in the yellow mark, and that means that the fuel filter is dirty and it needs replacing. You'll also hear the engine race go fast and slow, fast and slow, and fast and slow, and we're not doing that with the throttle. That's the engine sucking fuel, not getting it, sucking fuel and not getting it. So we decided to tie the boat up and to change the fuel filter itself, and we were able to do this a little bit differently than our earlier segment where we had to prime the fuel with a jug. We actually had the fuel filter here and the fuel level was higher, so we opened a valve and we back-fed the higher fuel tank into the fuel filter, and that was an easier, cleaner way to do that. But it only works when the fuel level is higher than the RACOR. If the fuel level is lower than the RACOR, you'll need to get a jug of fuel and pour the fuel into the top of the RACOR. Last thing about this, the engine wouldn't start. You got to think, gee whiz, what did we do wrong? Well, there's also a thing called a start in neutral safety switch. You don't think about it in your car, but your car won't start unless it's in park. In fact, the modern cars won't turn off unless it's in park. So diesel engines and their transmissions have the same feature. So we had to grab the shifter, rattle it a little bit, find the sweet spot where neutral is, and then the engine started and it ran fine. Take a look. Hope you learn a lot. It's O-ring sealed, so just now grab the pressure gauge by your hand and just spin it. It should be loose enough you can spin. No, the pressure gauge on top. Okay, use the wrench one more time. And that's spring loaded, so it's going to act a little weird. Push the brown lid down with your right hand, or okay, other hand. How many threads does it have?
Many.
Many, okay. Too many. Okay, when it's loose, take it out, lay it on the battery on your right. Lay it on top of that battery. Okay, now lift up that lid. Will it lift? Okay, turn it right side or upside down, lay that on the battery. Lay it on the battery. Now that lid's aluminum, so don't touch any of the post. Okay, grab that little handle. See where your right thumb is? Grab that little handle. Pull it up, twist it, rotate.
Which one
Be
here?
gentle, be gentle. Twist them, rotate, 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 and pull. Okay, what color is it?
Black.
Black is not good. It should be red. So you have a dirty filter, and we witnessed it two ways. The engine felt it, and we witnessed it by videotaping the vacuum gauge. So let that drain a little bit of fuel in there, and take it and set it in that bucket underneath the fuel filter. So that's a throwaway item. Okay, now take the O-rings and the for the lid and the vacuum gauge and put on the new O-rings. So how do you suppose we'll prime that?
Well,
Fuel in the tanks are higher than that
after we
filter body.
after we put the cover on, then we can open the valve to allow it to rush in.
Nope. I'd like to open the valve slowly and let it come in slowly so we can witness it before we put the cover on it.
Okay.
After you put the cover on, there's no more witness. You see the fuel come up?
Not yet.
And remember, it's going to absorb in that paper filter element. Is it coming?
A little bit.
Okay, maybe
Slowly.
open a little bit more. Okay. So you want it to be 100% submerged with that red diesel fuel. And you can only do it this way by backfeeding if the diesel tank level is higher than the RACOR filter body.
Okay, I think it's submerged.
Okay, submerged, turn it off.
It is off.
Okay, now we can go ahead and put the two covers back on. The big cover and then the vacuum gauge. Easy. Go ahead and start the engine.
Let's start.
Yep. Press it again, hold it down. Will it press down?
It's down.
Are there
Press.
two?
The far, I think it's the far right button where it says start.
It says stop, and then it says start and off. I was hitting start.
Or you gotta hit the left-hand button that says on.
It says start.
Okay. Take your shifter and rattle it. The black knob, rattle it, make sure it's in neutral. Okay, now try it. Okay, get the red knob and go up to 1200. Okay, so we've proved that we cleaned the filter, we reprimed the filter, no air bubbles came in the engine. Most important of all, that vacuum needle did not move off of zero. So let's lift up that old ugly filter and see what it looks like. So now you've seen 3 real-world fuel filter adventures. I know it's maybe a little bit sweaty, a little bit dirty, a little bit smelly with diesel fuel, but the point is they're simple tasks. They're do-it-yourself items that you can do yourself. So attend a class, join us in Vero Beach, learn how to change your own fuel filters, or call us and we can go to your boat and show you how to do it aboard your own boat. But the key things, the takeaways is dirty filters starve the engines for fuel. You cannot get enough fuel to run the engine, so you need to change the fuel filter. The easiest way to learn if your fuel filter is dirty is to have a vacuum gauge. And mind you, it's a vacuum gauge, not a pressure gauge. So look at the needle in the white, in the yellow, or in the red. And then when you do change your fuel filter, you may have to have a jug of diesel fuel that you can prime it. So depending upon your boat, if your fuel in the tank is higher than the fuel filter, that's easy to backfeed. If it's lower than the fuel filter, then you'll need a jug so you can prime it. The key thing is, it's a simple job. You can do it yourself. If you want to learn more about fuel filtering, or if you're having problems of any kind on your boat, you know who to call. Ask Captain Chris.